Okay, there we go. Awesome. So it's recording again. Awesome as well. It's really nice to hear that there are a lot of people saying yes. If it's any consolation or if it means anything at all, whilst I was kind of researching and preparing this, I also learned new things as well. Okay. And I think that's super critical to kind of appreciate that even someone who has been working in web development or software development for 5 years still doesn't know things that are maybe kind of a part of the basics almost. And I think a lot of that is due to, especially when you're kind of teaching yourself or kind of going through a process such as this, we're all trying to become as productive as we can, as quick as we can. So once we kind of know a little bit of HTML, we just move on. We don't actually go back and try and improve because we're too busy maybe working on CSS or JavaScript or whatever else it might be. But hopefully this just kind of gives you a little bit of a prod or a reminder that there's still a lot more to learn. And I'll talk about the homework in a moment. In fact, no, let me mention the homework now, just in case anybody needs to go, and then we'll kind of do a little bit of Q&A. And then I'll, of course, introduce anybody who would like to speak. So the homework is to just create a basic page with HTML. You can do it to introduce yourself to the world, write whatever it is that you want in there. But you don't need to worry about using any CSS or JavaScript at the moment, okay? The focus here is on structuring the page exactly as you want it in terms of content and order, but I want you to get into a habit of using semantic HTML. So that's the important part, okay? Now, once you've completed this, then, upload it to GitHub and then submit a link via the tasks page on the dashboard. I'll put the new task on there today. And look, I know some of you will have done these things in the past, or maybe you already have experience building websites. If you do, then you can just add that link rather than creating a new page. But one thing I would say is this: if your examples aren't using semantic HTML, then you should then you owe it to yourself to recode it using semantic HTML and submit that. If you want to separate yourself from most other developers, then you'll take the time to learn and implement accessible websites and be ready to promote those practices as well. I want to see you all talking about semantic HTML on Twitter, for example, because it promotes best practices and it separates you from everyone else in a good way. Like I said, only 1% of the top 1 million websites are fully accessible. Now, if you think about it like this, do you want to create websites that sit in that bottom 99%, or do you want to make websites that sit in the top 1%? So that's how I would look at it. I've got some further reading that I will give you all links to in a little bit. So let's do a little bit of Q&A. So before I read any questions or anything, would anybody like to speak? And if so, then use that raise your hand thing. Okay, so we've got a couple of people. Raji, would you like to speak?
Hello.
Hi, Raji.
Yeah, well done, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. For physically or visually impaired people, do we still have other tags aside from the strong tag, EM tag, and the attributes of alternative alt? Do we still have them? Then if we have many of it like that, so that we can be able to make use of them in some of the websites that we want to create. As you said, that we should try to abide by the best practice of making it accessible to visually impaired people. So what are those tags that remain to be learned? Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. So that is a really good question. And I'm glad you asked that. So you're right. There are lots of tags available, and the thing about HTML and also CSS is that they're constantly evolving. So there's always new tags being added to the specification. Although it's called HTML5 and CSS3, which indicates that there were previous versions, which there were. Nowadays, it's unlikely that there will ever be a HTML6 or a CSS4, but rather they will just continue to improve HTML5 and CSS3. Now, there is a document that I've actually got in the further reading that I'm going to give to you all that covers accessibility. It's just a link to a page on the MDN website, but I would recommend that you take a look at that. So some of the links I'm going to give you cover the semantics, and there's a lot more that you can learn. What I would recommend is take a look at those things, and then maybe later in the week, if you have follow-up questions, ask them in the chat, and then me or anyone else, I'm sure we'll be happy to help you. So I think Dee had a question as well. Would you like to speak? Oh, yep, I can hear you now. Hi, Dee.
I have no question. I just have a good moment for me. Like I want to share with you. Today, just I got an internship from a company as a Java developer intern. So
Dee, I'm just going to stop you for a moment. You're very quiet. Could you try to speak up or a little bit closer to the microphone, please?
Okay. Is it fine now?
That's better. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I have no question. I just want to share a moment with you. Today I just got an internship offer as a Java developer. This is my first
amazing.
and I'm really excited about it. I just wanted to share it with my squad, I'm just excited.
That's great. Okay, that's amazing. So as a Java developer, did you say?
Yes.
Okay. Well, why don't you take a moment to tell everybody about that process? So not the learning process, but how did you get this internship?
Yeah, I would really love to share this. Basically, before 6 months, I have started coding. Like before that, I have never write a single Hello World program. But before 6 months, like when this lockdown started, I got inspired that okay, I have to do something. Like this is when I realized actually this is my kind of thing. I've done some odd jobs before that. So in this learning process, I've started with online content actually, and with YouTube's all these things, and I keep applying to the companies. Like I just go to their website and through the LinkedIn. So before that, I got rejected also. I was like three rejections, and then this was the fourth one. And this was really like today I was there in the company, and the process was really smooth. Like there was no like there was some questions from Java and SQL. So on that skill, they hired me as an intern for 6 months, and just I'm really excited about it.
That's great, Dee. I'm so happy to hear that. Of course, this is all on you. Like you have made this happen, and I'm just happy to hear that you've managed to make a change in your life in such a short amount of time. You said it was only 6 months. That's incredible. So no, well done. And I hope you'll continue with us because there's definitely more to learn, as I'm sure you are aware. But I would also love to hear more about your experience whilst you're interning over the next 6 months. So maybe we can check in with you again in a couple of weeks, and you can spend some time talking to all of us about your experiences. So no, well done, Dee. That's amazing.
Yeah, I would love to share my experience with all the squad. That would be really amazing. I mean, yeah. I'm looking forward to learn more and more. I just wanted to be a better learner.
We all do. We all do. There's always space to improve or room to improve. So that's good. You're doing the right thing. So that's really good. Okay. I think AI. You had your hand up. Would you like to speak?
Thank you, Sunil, for the time. Thank you.
No. You're most welcome.
Hello everyone. Hi Sunil.
Hey.
Uh, I just want to know that is there any way online where I can test like how screen reader would be interpreting my HTML, or do I purchase any device for that?
Okay, that's a really good question. So there definitely are, but I don't know the website off the top of my head right now. But there are websites that will kind of interpret your website as if it was being viewed on a screen reader. So let me have a look into that, and I will share a link in the Discord once I've found it. But that's a really good point, and a kind of an easy way to do it as well. We've also had a link shared as well for the validator website. That's a really good one as well. So it won't necessarily show you what the website looks like, but it will kind of validate your markup to see if you have made it as accessible as possible. But I think your question was whether you could actually see what the website would look like. And there are tools out there, so I'll try and find the one for you, and I'll share the link with you later today.
Actually, I have heard about screen reader, but I have never seen anywhere.
Okay, no, that's fair. I mean, I know there are kind of specific devices or bits of hardware that do that as well, but I've not physically seen one. But you could imagine, for example, most computers have a screen reader in them. I think there are usually settings in kind of the accessibility part. So it could be, for example, that I mean, are you using a Windows computer?
Yes.
So I'm on a Mac at the moment, so I can't remember the exact location for it. But if you go into the control panel and if you look for accessibility, there are even things in there that you could turn on to activate a screen reader.
Yeah, that is screen narrator, but that doesn't show us tell us how our HTML is interpreted. That is only for I'm clicking on this link, I have moved my mouse here, now this app is opened. But I just want to see that thing in action.
Oh no, that's fair.
Share that link later.
Yeah, absolutely. I will take a look into it for you. But good question, because I think everybody should be trying to do that.
And also, I have one more question.
Yep, go for it.
Can we apply styles to articles, section, and main tags?
Yes, you can. So if you imagine that these semantic tags are, well, they're the same as any other HTML tag, in the sense that you could style any HTML tag outside of the ones that you'd see in the head anyway. So yes, you can certainly use them as to style. That's absolutely fine. It's better to use that than it is to, say, just style a div tag, for example.
But it is for accessibility, so should we do that?
Yes, no, that would still be fine for you to do if you're using the tags correctly. In other words, say if you have an article on like a blog post and you have wrapped it inside of an article tag, that's fine. If maybe your additional styling is to put some padding on it, for example, or a margin or something like that, that's fine. That's not going to impact on the screen reader. It's just going to, but it will notify that it's an article. And other things such as search engines are going to be aware that it's an article. So, sometimes if you search on Google, answers sometimes appear differently. That's because they've used the correct markup or specific markup. But no, some really good questions that you're raising. So, and the good thing is, I like that you're asking these questions, because these are things that demonstrate a curiosity in your mind. And I hope that you do kind of continue to scratch that curiosity and look into it more. Some of the links that I'll provide to all of you will hopefully go some way to doing that.
Okay, and one more thing, like as you taught us that meta tag, I guess it has something like UTF-8 character. What if I specify something different other than UTF-8? So what would be displayed on web page?
Off the top of my head, I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure what different interpretation would appear, just because I've never done it before. I've always stuck with UTF-8 because that's
The standard.
that's the standard. But try it. You know, it's as you know, it's quite easy to just try a website and kind of load it locally. So what you could do is, I think it's ASCII. There are lots of different versions. Do you know what? Let me have a look for different ones that you could try. I know there's things like UTF-16, for example, and so on.
UTF-8 covers Chinese characters also.
I believe it does. I believe it does. As far as I'm aware, it does. But yeah, you could try different ones in there for sure. I mean, what would be really interesting actually is if you try a few and report back to us. Let us know what the differences are. Maybe that's even something that you could write about in an article. You know, just an option if that's something you wanted to do.
Okay, thank you.
No, you're most welcome. Okay. So let me just see if there was any questions I missed. If anybody else has a question, by the way, raise their hand and I'll answer. Okay. Okay, so let's just see what we've got in the chat. So, okay, how can I sectionalize a page? Use section tags. That's definitely one way you could do it. I would look at, well, yeah, section's a good one. Well, it's better than div. If you thought of div as the worst one possible, like you should use that in if you've got no other options. Moving up a level, then something like section. Moving up a level, using any of those semantic ones that we mentioned earlier, like article, main, aside, nav, header, footer, and so on. Okay, let's have a look. So Gonz has shared a link. That's great. Do you know what? Oh, no, I thought that was exactly the same as one of the links I was going to share, but it's not. Okay, so accessibility is the long way to pass, but first we need to know the basic concepts and follow best practice without overwhelming ourselves. I agree. That's really important. So, you know, look, there are so many semantic and kind of accessible tags out there. But what I have shared with you should cover 80% of what you need, with kind of 20% of effort, if you get what I mean. So as long as you use those basic building blocks, you should be able to do most of the things that you need to do. Okay. I think that might be everyone. So I'll just final round of final call. Does anybody have any other questions that they would like me to answer? Okay, Bashsoft would like to speak. Go ahead. Are you there? If you're speaking, I can't hear you. Okay, I'm going to assume that you don't want to speak anymore. Okay, any other questions? Anything at all? Okay, all right. Well, we will wrap it up there then. So, oh wait, Raj, you would like to speak? Go ahead.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hello.
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
I can hear you.
I want to speak about a question somebody said was asked from him in an interview, that when you input a domain to the address bar of a browser, where is it taking you to? What is the best way to answer this question? Now, I want to take you back to what you taught us last week concerning the IP address, the TCP, the DHCP or something like that. So please, what's the best way, and how can we approach that kind of question in a way that will win us our targets? Thank you.
Okay, so that's there's a very long answer to that question. Maybe a little bit too long for us to go through now. Also, because I don't think I could, off the top of my head, just give you the best answer to that question. But there is a really good resource that that I know of that talks about that. And it goes into it in a lot of detail. So just to give you a kind of a little bit of an outline of how you could answer that question, you could talk about what happens exactly when you press the enter button, for example, and the actual communications that take place between your browser, your internet connection, your internet service provider, the client server, any databases, how it kind of brings back the HTML content, sends it back to the client, how it then parses the information, interprets it, loads up fonts, CSS styles, and everything. You could approach it from that angle, or you could even go even deeper, and you could talk about actually what happens when you open a browser. For example, the actual operations that are taking place inside the computer to open the browser. You could talk about what happens when you actually type in the buttons on the keyboard, and how your computer is interpreting those things. So there are different levels to how you could answer it. The best way, I would say, is the one that has the most information, the most detail. But I will share a link with in the chat in a moment or after this call to a really good resource that talks about that. So I hope that's okay. I know I'm not answering your question exactly maybe as you want it, but I don't want to do you a disservice by not giving you the best possible answer when I know there's a better answer available. So I hope that's okay. Okay, so if nobody has any more questions, we will wrap it up there. Oh, no, Hafiz, by all means, go ahead.
Sorry about that. I was trying to think that what question I can ask. And when I tried doing this homework about GitHub, I was trying to search about it, that how I can upload that repository. And there are so many ways people have explained it on the internet. I didn't go for a crash course actually, but I was just checking where there were some steps about it. But then there was one way of using Git bash, and that is another way of communicating with the GitHub platform. But then I really don't have any idea about this DOS system where I can get access to my files through Git bash, because it was all new thing for me. And then I was again shaking my head in this despair that I don't know these things now. Then I have to learn these things, because then I found a video about the crash course of GitHub, where it was all being done through VS Code, Visual Studio Code. So it is all about well, then what should we do? I mean, this is making it a bit, for me, I mean, it is making a bit difficult for me to learn that also.
Right. Okay. That's a good point. So, okay. So I'm aware that it's daunting and it can feel difficult. To some extent, that's deliberate. It's how do I put this? So with software development, as you know, I know you know this, that it's an ongoing learning process. So when you kind of sign up to become a developer or to learn to become a developer, you agree to a lifetime of learning.
Yeah.
But I know there can feel like a significant jump between, say, learning the basics of HTML and using the command line to upload files to GitHub. There is a difference in complexity. So I want you to know that I'm aware of that, and you should not feel bad if you struggled with this task, or even if you have not been able to complete it yet. So just please be aware of that. Axe is actually saying he's happy to talk with you through it. That's great. So I would take him up on that if I was you. But look, there are a few ways that you can upload files to Git. You could use either the Github Desktop, which is just an application that you could use that may simplify the process, because that's more about kind of it's called a GUI, which is short for graphical user interface. If you imagine, for example, VS Code is a GUI, your browser is a GUI. It's these things where you can just kind of click on things to use it. The opposite of that is a CLI, or which is a command line interface. That's where you're just typing in commands. There's no images or anything nice to look at. GitHub kind of falls between. You could do it in either of those. I don't personally use GitHub Desktop, but that could be an approach that helps you in the beginning.
Okay.
What have you tried so far in terms of, I know you've told me about following tutorials and things like that, but what have you tried so far to get your code online?
Well, then I I just created a repository there on the website, and I just upload that file of index, script, and style. And I don't know if it is. I have submitted the homework, but I don't know if it is right or not. But yeah.
Well, when was the last time you logged in to the dashboard?
Today.
And when you on that task, is it marked as complete or completed?
No.
It's not. Okay, let's have a look. Does it say incomplete?
Review something like that. Wait.
Let me see. Fetch
review.
tasks. I'm just having. Okay. So if you have done it quite recently, I've not had a look at it. So
Yeah, it was.
That will be why. So, okay. Looking at what you've got here, I can confirm that this looks fine. It looks like you've done it, so let's mark that as complete. Okay, so that's fine. That you've successfully uploaded files. I
did it in my way through. I mean, what I thought that was a bit easier. I just went to the website, saw what is written there, and then I did it. But through that crash course of Free Code Camp, where there is a girl talking about the whole thing through the Visual Studio Code, I tried to follow, but because as I told you that it was new thing for me, this CLI and DOS and all that, so I just got confused, so I stopped it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. You know, sometimes you need to just take a step back from it as well. I mean, the thing about using it, say, through VS Code is, now look, that's what I typically do day to day. Okay, but I'm doing that because I'm comfortable with VS Code. I've been using it for a long time, and I'm using it every day. From your perspective, it's still a new piece of software. You need to get comfortable with it before you start using what is probably considered an advanced feature, which is kind of using GitHub through it. So for now, don't worry too much. Okay, look, you've managed to upload files to GitHub. That's the first step. I'm pretty certain the way you did it was the way that I did it the first time as well. I mean, eventually, you're going to get to a point where if you were doing it manually, one file at a time, you're going to struggle, because as your applications become more complex, you might find yourself in a situation where you've got hundreds of files. Therefore, it's not going to be productive to be doing it one at a time. But by the time you reach that point, you will know how to do some basic commands on Git.
I hope so. Yeah.
Like you will. It's not even. I don't think you even need to worry about hoping. Like you will be able to. We will go through it, so it's fine. And the thing about some of these kind of crash courses and whatnot is, I can't vouch for all of them, but you know, if you're watching, or if there is a 1 hour crash course, say for example on GitHub or Git, that's too long. Okay, and that's not a crash course. That's trying to teach you everything about Git. Really, there's day to day, there's probably about 4 commands that you'll ever use. Push, pull,
Commit.
Maybe you'll make a branch or something. Yeah, and git init, exactly. Yeah, init is the first one. So thank you, Devesh. That's about it. Okay, like there are other ones like branch and merge, but for the most part, you won't even be using those when you're working by yourself. So I wouldn't worry too much. Just be patient with yourself.
Yeah, I was a little worried about it, so I wanted to say it in front of all, so that if the teacher is saying that it's not a big deal, then of course, yeah, I will overcome it. I mean, I hope, yeah, of course, I hope that I will one day. I mean, I will one day learn these things. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Like, if I could transport you back, or if I could teleport myself back to how I was when I first started coding, you know, you'd realize that it's perfectly normal to feel the way that you are at the moment. It's absolutely fine. And to be fair as well to you and to everyone else, I did intend for us to spend some time talking about GitHub, but I realized that we were talking too much about other things. I didn't want to keep throwing more and more things at you. So it was a case of just, okay, spend some time trying to learn the basics of GitHub, but we'll come back to it anyway at some point and kind of do it more. And it may be that we introduce GitHub after we finish this first module, and we'll spend a bit more time talking about it. So this first module, for anyone else listening as well, is HTML and CSS, which I envision we're going to do in 4 weeks. We've just done the first week. So next week, we'll talk about CSS. And then probably in the third week as well, we'll be talking about CSS. And then we'll also talk about making responsive websites. So, you know, how do you make something still look good on a mobile phone, but also look good on the desktop, for example? How do you make CSS that kind of just responds to the screen size rather than having to write 2 separate websites? But once we've done all of that, then, yeah, you know, we'll probably just do a lesson where we just spend some time answering different questions and doing things like GitHub and whatnot. And then hopefully by that point, Piero is going to take over the lessons or the majority of the lessons, I believe, on JavaScript. I'll still be around, of course, but he'll be looking after that. So long story short, don't feel too bad. We'll cover it in more detail in the future, but take Axe up on his offer.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool. So any other questions from anyone at all? Okay. All right. Well, we will wrap this up then. So thank you everyone for attending. Always really good to be kind of teaching with you and kind of listening to comments and seeing everything come through in the chat. Yeah, I will add some further reading into the Discord, and I'll put the new task up later today, and I'll also upload the video later today as well. And if anybody could be amazing and also, again, continue to talk about it on Twitter, how amazing Stackademic is, how amazing Stackademic Squad is and all that stuff, because that helps so much with just kind of getting more people to know about what we're doing. So, and, you know, I really enjoy teaching you all. So I love the fact that you're all with us. So, yeah, thank you, everyone, and have a good day and rest of your week.